You are listening to a special edition of the Purdue Report with Jake Dunn. Jake's reaction to the fifth-ranked Boilermakers 89-73 win over Wisconsin on Saturday in Madison. And it's only on the Central Indiana Sports Report. Please tune in on Wednesday for our weekly Purdue Report. Welcome back, Boilermaker fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report for a special edition of the Purdue Report. Jake Dunn's reaction to Purdue's 89-73 win over the Wisconsin Badgers in Madison. Jake, I made a ton of notes. I've got so much to talk about, but this night was all about Braden Smith.
Yeah, it was. He is now the Big Ten's all-time assist leader for career. He had 12 assists to break that record. He only needed 10 to fully claim it, but he finished the game with 12 assists. Did it on the road in a Big Ten gym. They still have 17 conference games left. So still a really, really cool thing. Even though it was on the road, it would have been really special in Mackey, but really cool to see him on the road go and break that record, and one that will hopefully stand here for a few more years. I know Jeremy Fears from Michigan State is off to a really good start with his career for assists, but hopefully one that will stand for a long time.
It was really cool. He had 2 assists to go, I think, and then he had 4 assists pretty much right in a row that were all just incredible passes. He was just showing off it by the 12th assist.
He was kind of jawing with somebody in the Wisconsin crowd. I think they were trying to get him riled up, and so that obviously only fuels him more, and makes him better. So taking a look at his whole career at Purdue, it's really helped take Purdue from a really good program to an elite program. Guys like Zach Edey, this big three, Matt Payne, really everyone around the program has benefited from Braden Smith and his ability to pass the basketball. So it makes this even scarier, is that he's now, I would say, probably playing the best defense of his career. So he's got that assist record, is playing really, really good on-ball defense, and takes care of the ball pretty well. And that's peak Braden Smith for you right there.
All he needs now is a national championship for some icing on the cake, right?
Yeah, that would be about the only thing that can make his career better.
He's now 18th on the all-time NCAA list, 183 behind Bobby Hurley. I think we need to start a countdown. Every reaction podcast and every Purdue report, we need to start having some kind of countdown. He is now 183 behind the great Bobby Hurley, and I know, Jake, you weren't around during the Bobby Hurley days. That is not an exaggeration. The great Bobby Hurley.
I was not around then, but I've heard obviously really good things about him, and we've gone over some of the names on the list in front of him. He's got a little bit of ways to go here, but he's on pace right now at this current rate. He will have a significant margin by about 50 or so if he keeps this up. But he's been playing really well, and don't know if it will keep up, but obviously hope it does. And hey, everything's looking all right for him to get that record.
Could be a subplot at the Final Four if that turns out to be where Purdue winds up. All right. Purdue, Jake, by the way, fell 1 spot in the rankings this morning in the coaches poll from 5th to 6th. Duke passed them. I don't think anybody cares. Now 13-1, 3-0 in the Big Ten. Also unbeaten in the Big Ten is number 1 Michigan and number 13 Nebraska. Both of those teams are actually unbeaten. And Purdue also all 3-0 in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I was watching the Michigan State-Nebraska game the other night, and that was a really good game. I don't want to toot my own horn, but my Nebraska prediction at the beginning of the season turned out to be a pretty good one. So hopefully hopefully they can keep it up. And they've just been playing really good basketball. So definitely one of Purdue's toughest games on the road for sure, and one of the toughest games in general left on the schedule.
Yeah. I watched the game with our IU guy, Grant Schaus, and it's hard to say at this point that Nebraska is not legit.
They certainly are, and I imagine they'll kind of catapult here in the rankings after beating Michigan State. So we could be looking at top 10 Nebraska.
Whew. So let's talk about top 10 Purdue. This was a game against Wisconsin that earlier in the year I said, stop me when you see a game we could lose in the Big Ten, and you and Mike Rich both stopped me at Wisconsin. So it was definitely a concerning kind of game. In fact, they're 5-4 against top 10 Purdue teams since 2018. Jake, they're kind of stunned me how often Purdue's in the top 10. That's what stood out to me. And if people like me, old people, will never forget the 2000 Wisconsin, and I will always hate that place. And they got behind early, Jake, but even with all of that playing against them, I never had any doubts they were going to win that game.
I wasn't so sure up until Purdue was able to build that lead there going into half. They're up by 7.5, I believe. But once they built that margin, I was like, all right, Purdue kind of seems in control here. But you read off that stat. It kind of shows why going into the season, I was pretty nervous for that game. Going into the season, Wisconsin, people thought they were a lot better than what they are. Me being one of those people. And they've kind of showed here that they're not as good as what everybody kind of thought they were going into the season. So that this may not. Right now, I believe it is a quad 1 win for the net rankings, but not sure if that'll hold up there by the end of the season.
They're not a bad Big Ten team. They're probably going to be a mid-pack Big Ten team.
They could kind of figure it out here towards the end of the season and be.
They might be a tournament team.
Yeah, for sure. So that Wisconsin returns to West Lafayette for Senior Day, March 7th at 4:00. So.
Big day.
Yeah, be a big day for Braden Smith and TKR and Fletcher Lawyer, and then as well Oscar Clough and Liam Murphy getting to kind of celebrate them and honor them for what all they've given to the program. So I'm sure they'll be looking to spoil that day for us. It's still got to make the trip to West Lafayette, and that's a place last year that they came in and beat Purdue. So. Certainly, if they do get their stuff together, it could be a tough game to end the regular season.
Jake, I think this is an appropriate time to do it on this Wednesday's Purdue Report. We need to talk about our Mount Rushmore of Purdue players, because if Braden Smith's not on it yet, he's awfully close to being on that. And we need to talk about best trios of Purdue players, because there have been some really good ones. And I'm not sure this isn't the best, but we'll talk about that on Wednesday.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, Jake, we all watched the Iowa State game and it was painful to watch. But since then, they've played 5 games. They're winning those games by an average of 26.6 points per game. All of those teams that Purdue played ranked somewhere between a competent team and good competition. They've just looked really good since the lost Iowa State.
They have, and we talked about kind of around that time that we thought Purdue was going to kind of learn from that loss and it was going to be better for them in the long run. Purdue hasn't had a win that's been less than 16 points since November, since Thanksgiving, basically against the game against Memphis. Just a good stretch here outside of that Iowa State game of really just, I don't want to say beating up on teams, because they're not necessarily going out there and trying to wrap the score, but they've looked pretty good here over that, basically really since that loss, and got another chance here on the 7th against Washington at home, 8:30 on the Big Ten Network. So they're a team that again kind of coming in, people thought might be more of a dark horse for the Big Ten championship. They haven't really panned out either, lived up to their expectations, but they've got some good players for sure. And some of them we'll talk once we get a little closer there.
And it looks like a pretty easy week this week. 9-4, Washington 9-5, Penn State at Mackey. Purdue had 5 players in double figures, the 8th time this year. Fletcher Lawyer hit 4 threes. You know, Purdue's now 19-0 when he makes at least 4 threes. So let's make that a priority.
Certainly didn't seem like a fluke. That hot shooting night for Purdue was really able to kind of break the game open with their defense and with pace and executing on the looks that they were able to generate. As we've seen before, as we talked about before in some of the past few games, early in the second half, Wisconsin was able to cut the lead down to 4, but then Purdue responds with a 26-7 run that really kind of just removed all doubt from the game. And that stretch
It seemed like more than that. It seemed like a 50-3 run.
We saw after Braden Smith got that record, it kind of seems like the team was pretty loose there and stopped really trying. And we saw Wisconsin kind of pull it back within, I guess, 13 or so. A stretch, that 26-7 run really looked like a veteran team and a team that's poised to win games like this in March.
The final score of 89-73 does not at all tell the story.
It felt like the Purdue won by 30.
Oscar Clough, 28th career double-double, 12 points, 11 rebounds. And I think what impressed me the most, Jake, watching that game was his setting picks and his player movement. It is outstanding. He fits right in.
He does. Saw him get his hands on some of those loose balls. Really, the whole team, I feel like, was showing a lot of effort. There was a time in the second half where people were kind of diving on the floor for loose balls. There's a Trey Kaufman-Renn got the ball, called a timeout to save the possession. The whole team is hype and you're kind of running out there on the floor. Coach Painter was even getting pretty amped up for that, which is great to see. But going back to Fletcher Lawyer, I think he was the MVP of the night. The 20 points, he was diving on the floor too. He had good post feeds, had good team defense, which we've talked about. I mean, he had a complete game. It felt like a winning player and a guy who's gonna win you some games in March. But to your point, Oscar Clough looked really good. Daniel Jacobson looked pretty good. His presence definitely changed some shots at the rim. TKR had a chase down block that saved some points. I think Fletcher Lawyer even had a block. Yeah, Purdue's playing pretty active and disruptive defense, and they were staying connected, which again is stuff that you want to see continue throughout the season. So after halftime, Wisconsin shot 9 of 29 from the field. That's just credit to the defense that Purdue was able to play.
You mentioned it a little bit. The thing that's surprised me most about Oscar Clough is his defense. I don't think he's necessarily a great one-on-one defender, but he is without question a plus defender. Even with his big body that doesn't move that fast, we saw him even get into a passing lane. I was really impressed with his player movement, his pick setting, and his defense.
Talking about defense here, in the first half, he was able to generate 11 points off of Wisconsin's first half turnovers. So that's obviously really good. That's how you make turnovers really kind of kill teams is by scoring off them. So they did a good job doing that. Braden Smith is just really good running in transition off those steals. And that's really where Purdue becomes lethal, really. Kind of thinking back to some of the prior games against Wisconsin, they're really kind of more grind fest, it feels like, where Purdue just has to kind of grind out these wins, real physical, low scoring games. But Purdue would really kind of flip that script here for this game.
You mentioned Trey Kaufman-Renn, 11 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. It sounds like a pedestrian game, but he was really good.
I kind of thought now that we've gotten into Big Ten play that he might get a little more usage in the offense and score some more points. He had 5 rebounds. I think that's one of the lowest performances of him for the season, but he was still pretty effective. We talked about that block. He had 3 assists, a really good passing game from him. And he was able to stay out of foul trouble too. Only had 1 foul, but that's kind of foul trouble. Not to go back to Braden Smith here, but Matt Painter really kind of showed his trust in Braden Smith with 16 minutes and 38 seconds left in the game. It was an 11-point game. Braden Smith got his 3rd foul, and Matt Painter decided to leave him in. Purdue immediately goes on to score 10 straight points, and just cool to see that kind of trust between Matt Painter and Braden Smith.
And we down here in the southern part of Indiana, where I spend much of my time, near Sellersburg, where, of course, Trey Kaufman-Renn is from. That little floater of his, or whatever it is, we call it the Sellersburg shot put, just so you know.
It certainly looks like a shot put, but it goes in for him. So there's a couple that I think he normally makes. There's certainly unique and not something that we see a whole lot in basketball.
Hey, just 3 points for Omer Mayer, Jake. I can tell there's a special player in there just waiting to get out.
Yeah, I think him, C.J. Cox, and Jakari Harris looked fairly good in this game. I think Omer Meyer hit a pretty clutch shot from the corner in this game, and I think he's certainly showing signs of being a good player and one that Purdue's really gonna have to rely on next year alongside C.J. Cox and Jakari Harris. In the minutes, I feel like they were pretty opportunistic and aggressive. They weren't really ever passive. I really like to see Jakari Harris's confidence and shooting the three. I know he was 2 for 5, 2 for 7 overall from the field. So the stats may not show in this game how valuable that was, but I saw him take some shots that maybe last year probably doesn't take, and so I'm glad to see him. He's comfortable taking that, and it's kind of surprised me with how good of a shooter he's become. So nice to see that, and CJ Cox too. Just kind of seems like a guy that whenever you need a shot knocked down, he's going to make it.
We've barely mentioned CJ Cox. That got to be the best player on an awful lot of good college basketball teams.
So I know at the beginning of the year we kind of talked about how Purdue has 7 or 8 starters on their team, and he's certainly one of them that could go a lot of different places and be one of the best, if not the best player.
4th time in the last 5 years, Purdue has at least 13 wins in their first 14 games. Amazing.
They said on the broadcast that this was one of the few times that Matt Painter's gone 3-0 in the Big Ten during his tenure. And that was something I was pretty surprised of, kind of thinking of some of these good teams that they've had over the years. But 3-0, still in control of their own destiny in the conference. And like we talked about before, having that favorable home schedule is certainly something that should hopefully benefit you and your journey to get your, I believe it would be 27th Big Ten championship.
7th. Amazing. Matt Painter's 700th game yesterday, 484 wins. Amazing.
Really blessed and fortunate that he is the coach of my favorite team. So
didn't think we could do any better than Gene Cady, and amazingly we did.
For sure. And I saw something online. Somebody was talking about a Xavier game. I think it was around like 2011 or so, where Purdue was up big on the road, and they came back and lost that game because the team wasn't playing as a team. There were just individuals out there trying to score and take bad shots and things like that. And I think that was probably a pretty good turning point for Purdue, or for Matt Painter, and getting guys that are willing to come in and play as a team. It's just guys willing to come in and Braden Smith has said it. I don't care how many points, I don't care how many assists I get. I just want to win, and those are the guys that you want on your team.
Last thing, Jake, I know this might be controversial. I really like Jason Benetti and Jim Jackson.
Yeah, I really like Jason Benetti. I really liked when he was paired up with Robbie Hummel. It's probably been a year or two since they've been paired up, but I thought they were a really good tandem. And Jim Jackson, I thought that they had that they sounded pretty good on the broadcast, in my opinion. So, I'm sure there's probably some people out there that'll disagree, but I like Jason Benetti mainly. But Jim Jackson was good to go along with him for sure.
Jake Dunn, that was a lot of fun. Let's talk on Wednesday.
Yeah, sounds good. Boiler up.
Boiler up. Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.